Most of the salespeople I see are developing a connection, tactical or transactional, in order to get a deal done, and then they pivot and they move on. And they don't reach back out to that individual until the next deal is moving forward. They need him or her for something.
Welcome, everyone, to the 1% Edge podcast, where we dive into the journeys of extraordinary guests committed to getting 1% better every day. Today's topic is all about the power of relationships and networking in sales. We often talk about building relationships, but few of us really spend the time and energy to do it right. And to help us out with that topic today, I'm honored to have Carl Taggart, Director of Sales, Quality, and Safety at Simpler. Hey, Carl, how are you today?
I'm great, Carlos. How are you doing today?
I am good. I'm excited about the topic. This is something near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, same. I would agree. This is really important.
All right, so let's start with defining what do you mean by a relationship, specifically in business, because I think a lot of people think they have relationships or they call themselves relationship salespeople, but I think it's a big I think they're really not considering what we do for a living. I think they're shortchanging us. So I'm always on the fence on this one, Carl. So let's start with, from your perspective, what is a business relationship?
I think a business relationship is somebody that I have developed a long-term connection with. And that's not just a connection over a transaction or a specific sales deal, but it's getting to know the individual over a long period of time. And it's helping solve problems. I am no value to somebody that I sell in healthcare if I'm not helping them solve problems. These people have lots of other friends. The last thing they need is another friend who doesn't do anything for them.
Great point. And so my pet peeve on people calling themselves relationship salespeople is I think they shortchange themselves. And the way I kind of prove it to them, I go, so you got great relationships in the industry. That's what makes you awesome. Because So tomorrow I want to move you to a new market where you have zero relationships. Are you going to suck? And they go, no, I'm going to build new relationships. I go, well, what is that based on? And he just kind of said it. It's really based on, hey, I'm going to solve really complex problems for them, provide value to them where they want to work with me and want to work with me long term. And I go, see, I think this is where I'm on the fence. I think the word relationship sometimes it doesn't say that. For a younger rep, they just hear and go, "Oh, I just got to be liked. I'll buy them some beers. I'll tell some jokes, and I'm good." And they go, "No. Like you said, Carl, they got plenty of friends.
Yeah,
It doesn't mean they want to do business with you."
and there are plenty of reps out there who will buy them a beer. So at the end of the day, if you're not getting to know them, and I'm not getting to understand what their problems are, what they're solving for today, and that what they're solving for today could change over a month, over a year, over a career. But understanding that. So you made a comment about if I put a rep into a new territory, well, I'm just going to go build new relationships. Well, part of that is correct, but also part of it is digging in and understanding who those people are. Okay, who's in the new territory? What's the issue that new territory is facing today, or that new product? Understanding that and understanding a customer's needs is what defines a successful salesperson, and then being able to satisfactorily interact, get to know, get comfortable, and build trust with that individual. That's really important.
Excellent. All right. So I'm thinking about our listeners and they're going, yeah, I get it. But look, I got a number on my head. I got transactions I got to do. Carl, they might say, I don't have time to build these relationships. How do you do this in an honest, authentic way versus faking it?
Yeah. First of all, most of my relationships evolved through some sort of a professional interaction, meaning relationships in business. And so, local industry associations, local chapters of national organizations, and just going and getting to know the people there. That is part of it. I would say that for me, I've stayed in healthcare most of my career, And that's where I've developed long-term relationships, because those people see me consistent. I'm not jumping around to the newest fad. I'm not jumping around to the newest product launch. I'm moving from vascular to spine. Now I got to create a whole new set. I've stayed fairly consistent around performance improvement and operations and quality. That authenticity, that consistent approach on my perspective. I'm not just jumping around. That drives a level of trust with those individuals, with my relationships.
Okay. What actions do you take to kind of build some of these things?
Yeah, so everybody's different. So some people are golfers, some people don't golf. I golf a little bit. I don't golf professionally. I think that would be a little bit embarrassing, because there are people that I would golf with that are a lot better than me. I get to know them. I stay on a regular cadence. I am actively networking with people that I'm connected to, and others. I'm trying to make new connections. And so I am actively staying in touch with these people. I chat on a regular basis, whether that's monthly, quarterly, annually. I am regularly talking to my friends, my connections, throughout my LinkedIn community, and even people who aren't on LinkedIn, on a regular basis.
Okay. So it sounds like you have a cadence with them. Do you use
Yeah.
like a CRM or something to kind of maintain that so you don't lose track of it? What are some of your tricks there?
I would say the iPhone is the best CRM out there. My calendar is full of reminders. I have birthdays. I have wedding anniversaries. I mean, I texted a CFO at a hospital in New Jersey. This was last year. He's coming up on his birthday this year. I was like, "Hey, happy birthday!" And he's like, "Hey, thanks." Like kind of like surprised, like, "Hey, I actually remembered their birthday." And those types of interactions create kind of that foundation of trust. When we were talking about this topic, Carlos, I talked about building a long-term foundation of trust, and ultimately that is what is needed in order to drive success in sales.
Great point. So along those lines, you
Yeah,
know, it's funny. Sorry, I got a million thoughts going through my head.
yeah,
One of the things I try to do is for the follow up, like you and I talk, Carl, and you go, "Hey, I got this going on a month from now," or I try to put a reminder. I'm like, "Hey, check with Carl on whatever."
yeah.
And the other aspect of this is, I really think you got to be authentic, or I don't know what the right word is,
Hmm.
real
Yeah,
about caring about someone to want to call them on their birthday or anniversary or check on their project
yeah,
versus, hey, I'm checking the box. Does that make
yeah,
sense?
yeah. Yeah.
Is that a
You know,
personality thing you're born with, or are or do you fake it till you make it? What's your advice?
Yeah, so two things. I do think that some people have that. Danny Meyer, who's a restaurateur in New York City, writes about the 51%. I think he calls it the 51% person, and that he's talking about a waiter, basically the front of the house staff that interacts with the customers. He goes, I can teach the 51% person anything about the product, but if they don't have that 51%, that is that ability to connect, build a bond, build a rapport. Relationships are more than just building a bond and building rapport, but at the base of it, you have to be able to create some commonality or engagement with the person. He's like, I cannot teach the 49% person that differentiator. They can learn it over time, but it's easier to teach them the aspects of the food. So coming back to what we were talking about, yeah, some people are born with it, but at the end of the day, you do have to be authentic in that catch up, that casualness. I mean, I there's one guy, even though we've had our cell phones for years, he messages me on LinkedIn more than he sends me a text message. And we touch base probably every 3 to 6 months. He's in supply chain, he's in middle America, and he'll be like, "Hey, how's it going? I'm between jobs, and we'll talk." He does interim work, so he does a lot of on-site interim work. And I'll be like, "Hey, have you talked to so and so? Reach out to so and so. Tell them I told you to reach out to them. I heard a couple of weeks ago that they were looking for somebody that may be up your line." And I don't gain anything from it. maybe at some point down the road, that individual will be in a position to make a decision on a sale or a solve that I'm having for a health system. But at the end of the day, I'm not doing it because I want anything from it. I'm doing it because it's beneficial to both of us, in the
Yeah.
in the non-dollar perspective.
Yeah, and there's two parts of it that I try to remind myself. Like, hey, sometimes I just want to do things because it's the right thing to do. I'm a
Yeah,
good human being, and I want to help others. It comes around one way or the other. The
yeah,
other way of thinking about it that I also try to remind folks, it's chess, not checkers. In other words,
mhm,
you helping him, find a job, or even just giving him a word of encouragement as he's going
yeah,
through a tough time.
yep,
Hey, it may not pay dividends today or tomorrow. It doesn't relate to that deal you got going right now, but it may be the difference in getting something a year from now or 2 years from now. I've
right,
literally have had people from our workshop contact me 9, 10 years later, which I'm like, I
mhm,
don't even remember you in my podcast, in my workshop, to be
yep,
honest. And go, oh my God, that workshop was great. I really, it's become part of me. It's part of what my sales approach since, we met Carlos. First off, they make me feel like $1,000,000, and I really appreciate it.
yep,
So I'm very grateful that they do it. And from that point on, they don't have to buy anything more for me. I'm more than happy to help them
yeah.
any way I can. They just made my day.
Well, that's a really good point. A couple of years ago, everybody's been through a reduction in force. So a couple of years ago, I was hit by a reduction in force, and I will tell you the amount of people who knocked on my door, texted, LinkedIn. Oh my God, I can't believe you got let go. If there is anything I can do for you, you tell me. I had more references than I needed. I mean, it's just, and part of that, it just makes you feel good. You know
Mm-hmm.
what? I got a really good safety net's a bad word, but I got a really big safety net or net of people that will help me out in some way or another. The other piece of this, and you said this earlier when we pivoted a minute ago about sometimes you just do it it's to feel good. So there's a phrase we've all seen, it's all over LinkedIn and Facebook, and that is character is what you do when nobody's looking. And I think that same thing about developing relationships. There are people I don't need to maintain relationships with. And people are like, why are you talking to him? Like, why not? You know what? It's what makes me feel good. If maybe I can help him with some guidance or he can help me down the road, like it is what it is. And it's what I do when nobody else is looking, meaning a boss and why aren't you hitting your number?
You
Or
know,
why
I,
are
I
you hitting your number?
right. I kind of the one thing I wonder is that something that's just natural, part of your DNA, Carl, or is that something that also young or new professionals can also learn and incorporate in what they do? What do you think?
It varies. For me, at this point, it is very comfortable. But I also know early on, like I remember my first job out of college. I was working for a small investment bank in New York, and I pivoted from doing the work to doing more outbound sales to develop kind of a base of business. And the first phone call was the hardest. But once I got past that, and the second and the third, I kind of enjoyed picking up the phone and calling people who didn't know me. Hey, I'm so and so from Levin Associates, and can do you have a few minutes? I want to talk about the HUD 232 program, and it's for many people they'd be like, what's that? But it's fun. I enjoyed it. It's educational. It's once you get through that, it's really comfortable.
I think it's great. The As you were talking, I was thinking back to early on in my career. I met this guy named Gary Six. He was a great sales guy. And one
Mm-hmm.
of the things as we traveled and stuff together, he would, like we would see one of his clients, let's say the shipping company, one of their trucks would drive by
Mm-hmm.
and he'd go, they feed our family. So we support them. And
Yeah.
he had this sense of loyalty to the customers that we served because, not only did we get a transaction and we get something out of it, hey, that long-term relationship, that logo, that those people over there, they're fans of ours. It's not just having a reference. It's about having a raving fan that's willing to promote you and wants you
Yeah.
to do well, right?
Right. Yeah,
Um,
no, I would agree. I would agree. And listen, when you've done something for somebody like that, when you've helped something in a bind or do something that made them look good or solved a really big problem, they remember you.
All right, so let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Hey, some folks are going, yeah, I got good relationships. However, our product isn't what we thought it was going to be, or we shifted direction, so it's impacting the customer and it's created an uncomfortable situation, or the project team, something went wrong, and now I got to call this person that I had a nice relationship with, and I got to give them some bad news.
Yeah.
What's your advice when things don't always go well?
Pick up the phone and face it head on. At the end of the day, the problem, every product, every solution, every service, every consulting engagement is going to have a hiccup at some point down the road. Not everything is perfect. The customers on the other side of that, they expect that. They know it's not going to be perfect. And so when you try to avoid or obfuscate or kind of work around it, no, face it head on. You know what? We got an issue here. Guess what? We told you we'd have this staffed in a month, and it's going to take us 2 months, or it's going to take us 3. You know what? Let's adjust your billing, or let's do something. Like, let's work through it. Most of the time, the customers just want communication. They want to understand what's going on. They want that honesty. Again, like I said earlier, it's built on trust. And if they can't trust you to be honest with them when it's going bad, then they're not going to want to trust you in the future with the next sale.
Great point. Great point. In fact,
Yeah.
One thing I try to remind folks, the brands that you're most loyal to are usually ones that things did not go perfectly. But
Yeah.
when you did have a hiccup, how did they react? How did they react to that situation, right? And that creates
Mm-hmm.
a lot of loyalty. It's like, hey, they were there for me when this went bad. I want to be there for them in the future as well, right? It creates that long-term loyalty to a brand.
It does. And being able to strategically problem solve is really important. It's like, I don't know what to do. I'm sorry, that's not an answer. It's, you know what? Hey, I heard you had a problem last night. Let me dig into it. I'm going to make a couple of phone calls. I'll be back in touch with you. If you tell them you're going to be back in touch with them at the end of the day, call them at the end of the day, even if you don't have an answer. It's that, you know what? I have comfort that Carl's going to do what he said he was going to do. I have confidence that we're going to get it fixed one way or another. And, I've been through this with Carl before, and, we'll get it taken care of.
It's interesting, and maybe I'm just getting old, but today I do feel like there is this lack of accountability.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I'll call you at the end of the day. No call comes.
Yeah. Well,
And-
and I would say that the most important thing is pick up the phone. Don't text. Don't send an email. Some of these tough issues are not best sent in an email. Pick up the phone and call them. Say, listen, I'm going to send you an email with all the details, but here's what's going on.
Yeah, if I had advice for younger professionals is it's uncomfortable, but face it head on.
Yeah.
Because, someone misconstruing your text or email is easy.
Well, and how many times have you've typed it out on the text message, you've proofed it makes sense, and you hit send, and then you go, I can't believe I spelled that one word wrong, or I can't believe autocorrect flipped it and I didn't pick up on it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm reading this book on communications, and one of the things he was talking about, like his mom's asking him a question about their car, and he's
Mm-hmm.
like, "Do you know whatever about the car?" And he's like, "No." So then she asks again, "Are you sure you don't know the?" He goes, "No, Mom, I don't." And then the last part of it is her message like, "I really don't like your tone, but okay." And he goes, I picked up the phone, called her because in a way I'm thinking I'm laughing and I'm being sarcastic. Like, of course I don't know, Mom.
Yep.
And she's taking it as a totally different way based
Mm-hmm.
on the text. She's reading it in her voice, in
Mm-hmm.
her tone, in her mindset, not my mindset. And
Yep.
in fact, like that was part of the book. It talked about the fact that a lot of us, we sound a different way in our heads than we do to the people that we talk to. Even our
Yep.
voices, like most people, including myself, hate their voices, and that's because
Uh-huh.
what you
Yes.
hear in your heads is deeper tone off the vibrations through your bones, not the actual audio that comes in through your ear.
Oh, I know.
So
I am with you 100%. I'm going to give you two short examples of what you mean about that easy miscommunication. One was with my father, and at the age of 97, he was still texting, and I text him something, and his response was fine. Well, in my mind, I'm like, well, it sounds like he's being a little short, but you take a step back and you go, no. For him, he's like, fine. The other is I had a boss a couple of years ago, and we were at a meeting, and there was some text going around. Hey, meet here, and I'm like, sure. I'm like, yeah, sure. Hey, I'm on my way. And afterwards, she's like, for some reason, the word sure, the way it just rubs me the wrong way. I'm like, okay, I understand. I cannot use that word unless I really want to either make you laugh or piss you off.
great
Yeah,
points, and at least they have the honesty to share that with you too, because
I,
that's the part that we usually miss. They don't share that with us. We
yeah,
use the word because it's just part of our way of communicating,
yeah,
and you create this friction that you're not even aware of why.
exactly. Yep, I would agree.
All right, so Carl, what are some of your tips for maintaining these relationships? Because sometimes you're in the throw of a battle, you're in a project, you're working through the sales campaign, you build a good relationship, and it fizzles out, right? An implementation team takes over. The project continues. They get busy, right? They,
Mhm.
they they don't have time to spend with you every day. So how do you maintain this in an authentic way?
I, you know, Sometimes it's a text message, an email, whatever it is. It's like, hey, let me know when you got 5 minutes just to catch up live. I, First of all, we talked about the iPhone. It's the best CRM. Like I have calendar invites and stuff like that. I've got, reminders about stuff. In my work calendar, I highlight orange. So I have networking on my business calendar every week. And I'll be like, hey, I talked to so and so, you know what? I ought to put a reminder on in 3 weeks to reach out to him. Or I'll ping somebody on LinkedIn and I'll put a calendar invite to hold the space on my calendar so nobody books over it. And then I color code it. So it it just takes a little bit of work. It is, you have to be purposeful in maintaining those relationships. It doesn't mean that I am talking to 1,000 people on a regular basis. Some of them I talk to once a year. Some of them I'm talking to monthly or quarterly. Everybody's going to have a slightly different cadence depending upon who they are. Not everybody wants to be your friend and pick up the phone and chat.
Right.
So you have to just gauge what that is for that person and then just plan accordingly.
Yeah, along those lines, and I go off and on this thing, and I almost feel bad calling it prospecting, right? Because then okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's all about me and getting something, but
Yep.
I want to maintain these relationships, so I called it like 5 a day. So what are 5 people in my network I'm going to reach out today? You do
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, 5 days a week. That's 25 people a week you can reach out to, especially as your career extends. You don't realize how many people
Right.
you've met and you've introduced yourself with. And so whether it's a note through LinkedIn, a text, an email message, or even a phone call, I try to reach out to 5 people a day is one of
Yeah.
the things I do. I don't do it all the time, but it's a way to kind of keep that going.
Yeah, I kind of do the same thing. I actually had a chief customer officer at the last company I was with, and so everybody has their own little shtick. And a stick sometimes has a bad connotation, but this individual, I won't put his name out there. He wrote handwritten notes. This is somebody who'd been in career for 30, 35, 40 years. He's closing in on the age of retirement, I think. He profusely handwrites notes, transcribes them, and then he writes handwritten notes to these customers. I was with him one time. We were meeting with a senior executive at a large health system in northern New Jersey, very, very large health system. And the CFO was like, I remember when I was just a director of finance at another hospital, you sent me a handwritten note. He goes, I remembered that. I still have those notes. Like that was really important to me throughout my career was I'd get these notes from this guy after we had a meeting or after I was published in an article or I was on an interview. I, I, I'm not a great handwritten note guy, but every now and then I'll do a handwritten note. But that everybody has their own little approach to doing it. And you just have to do what makes sense and is comfortable for you, what works for you.
That's a great tip. Especially these days because we don't get a lot of mail other than junk.
I know. Actually, it's really nice to get a handwritten note. Actually, he sent me one or two over my career working with him with an article or, hey, thanks for this deal that you did. So it was nice.
I think that's a great point. All
Yeah.
right, Carl, I could talk to you all day long. Uh, Tell me a little bit more about yourself, your career. How'd you
Yeah.
get here?
I appreciate that. So I'm in sales leadership now, but I haven't been in sales leadership throughout my career. You got to put your time in to earn that opportunity. I've been in healthcare my whole career in slightly different aspects of it. Now I'm in the software space, but I've been in quality and performance improvement for a good portion of my career. I grew up in central New Jersey. I'm an East Coast guy. And I love what I do every day. Every day I wake up excited, and I'm not afraid of Mondays. Yeah, Mondays can be long days, but it's like, ooh, what can I sell this week?
Awesome. I love
Yeah.
that attitude. In fact, here I thought of one more question because this is always
Okay.
interesting. In in building relationships and networking, and I do believe that your network is your net worth. I stole that from
Yeah.
somebody.
Oh, I like
Um,
that.
what do you think the biggest mistake is that people make?
I think that they don't develop relationships. Most of the salespeople I see are developing a connection, tactical or transactional, in order to get a deal done, and then they pivot and they move on. And they don't reach back out to that individual until the next deal is moving forward. They need him or her for something. So
Interesting.
maintaining that's what I talked about. You gotta, after the sale, you gotta follow up on a regular basis. Keep in touch.
Now, you, you and I are closer in age,
Hmm.
and one thing that is surprising to me, but I mean, I'm just being aware of it, is there are people out there that don't want to talk to salespeople.
Yeah.
They send me the information. I'll make my own decisions. They don't want to have a conversation really.
Hmm.
And they don't, and in doing so, it's harder to get to know them better, right? To really build a relationship. Are you seeing some of that as well out there?
You see it every day. I'll tell a great story. Actually, the gentleman I referenced earlier, who's in the Midwest in supply chain, our first true interaction was when we both ended up working at the same company. It was a software company. He was a consultant. I was in sales. And we connected on LinkedIn. And, he walks in. He's like, hey, you're really familiar. And we get talking. And I go, Kip, you may not remember me, but when you were at XYZ Health System, I called you from this company, from a different company. And he looks at me kind of sheepishly and he goes, did I ever call you back? I'm like, nope. But that didn't stop me from developing a relationship with him that is still here 15 years later. It was one of those funny moments. And he's like, I'm really sorry. He goes, I think I need to get better at that. I go, yeah, you got to remember that, yeah, we're salespeople, but we're also there to help you. Most of what you have and you use and you implement and you transact on a daily basis in supply chain, you're buying from somebody, from some company through a sales rep. So
So one thing you just said that I like to focus on and remind people of it, and that's that we're here to help.
yeah, we are. We
Yeah,
have to
nobody
solve big
wants
problems.
right. Nobody wants to be sold. Everybody loves to buy,
That's
but
right.
it's really about helping them buy, helping them with a problem, helping them achieve an outcome, a result that they're looking to get to. If
Yeah.
your perspective is that versus selling them, you can
Hmm.
have a real authentic conversation. When you make it all about selling them, then if you're selling hammers, everything looks like a nail, and you just talk over them. And how many do you want?
Yeah. Well, one of the sales conferences I was at probably 20 years ago, they had a gentleman who had worked at Black and Decker, and when he took a head sales role or some head role, he was with the whole team, and he's like, "What do we sell?" And they're like, "Oh, we sell drills." He's like, "No, we sell holes." He looked at it differently.
Yeah.
Yes, they sell drills which make holes, but he just spun it a little bit differently, and that gave him the ability to think differently about the company and how they approach what they do.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, Carl. So what's your 1% edge? What do you been working on to get 1% better every day?
Yeah, I think, and I've probably woven this word through our conversation unintentionally, but authenticity. I think at the end of the day, we have to be authentic to who we are, to our customers, to our friends, our family, our relationships. Authenticity. Without there is no basis of trust.
100%. I'm with you.
Yeah.
All right, Carl, if people want to get to know you better or reach out to you or learn more about Simpler, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, ping me on LinkedIn. I have LinkedIn open on my work and personal computer every single day. I am actively out there engaging. So please, LinkedIn, Carl Taggart at LinkedIn, find me there and message me, and I'm happy to start a conversation.
And I appreciate you because that's how we got to know each other. So thank you, Carl.
Exactly. Yeah, you're welcome, Carlos. Thank you very much.
I appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, everyone. That does it for this week's episode. If you got some value out of our conversation, please comment back, subscribe. We really appreciate that. You can do it on whatever your favorite platform is. And stay tuned for next week's episode. They drop every week. Really appreciate your support, and I wish you nothing but the greatest success.